What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a public library? Some of you may say it's a quiet space where you can borrow books, but you cannot make new friends. Because if you talk, a grumpy librarian will appear and go, shh. Others might remember a situation when their dog ate a book by accident, and until today they are afraid to return it because of the librarian's reaction. Or, why do physical libraries still exist today if it's possible to find any information on internet? I know this notion of libraries is very present in people's minds, but be honest, how long has it been since you went to a public library? Society has changed, and libraries too. To show you why libraries are important to make our world better and contribute to a more sustainable society, I will tell you a story of a little girl from Brazil. When she was a kid, she studied in a public school, and she had a hard time to learn how to read and write. In her school, there was no library, only a tiny room with some books that was always locked. The students almost never used this room, and when it was open, it was used as a place of punishment for misbehaving kids. And what do you think the punishment was? Yes, reading. Clearly, this kind of experience doesn't motivate new readers, and it was no different for her. She didn't like to read, and she started to associate reading with punishment. So how did she overcome this problem? By chance, she had a lot of contact with libraries, because in front of her school there was a youth library, which had several playful activities. For example, storytelling with puppets. She was a big fan of it, and there she developed her interest in reading. Not only these libraries helped her, but when her grandmother couldn't take care of her after school, she had to go to her mother's work in the university library. This permanent contact with libraries and with the help of her mother, who is librarian, her interest in reading increasing even more. As a kid, she wasn't aware of the positive impacts that the libraries would have in her life. However, few years later, she finally understood its importance and decided to become a librarian. Well, she is right here in front of you speaking about libraries. That story was in early 90s, but until today, millions of Brazilians are struggling to learn to read and write. According to the Brazilian Literacy Indicator, about 29% of people aged 15 to 64 are functionally illiterate. That's about 38 million people, and it means that they have difficulty in making use of reading and writing in everyday life situations. You might ask, is that be a problem only in developing countries? This question also facing my mind, so I started to research how libraries are working to change people's lives. Today, I live in Germany, and here the literacy situation is better than in Brazil. A study by Hamburg University shows that 12% of German speakers between the age of 18 and 64 have low literacy levels. They have difficulty reading and writing. That is nearly 6.2 million people. As the number shows, poor literacy is an issue in both countries. And I want to talk about how libraries do not only help in this regard, but also to achieving all the sustainable development goals. Now you might ask yourselves, what are the sustainable development goals? This was the first question that I asked in my survey that I sent to libraries in Germany. I was really impressed with the result because 53% of the librarians replied that they are aware of that, and I thought that amount would be smaller. The United Nations established in 2015 an agenda that aims to create a better world by 2030. This agenda has 17 Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the Global Goals. Guided by this agenda, it's now up to all of us, including libraries, to work together to build a better world for everyone. The idea here is not to explain each one of them, but to show you how libraries contribute. In fact, many of these goals have worked so far a long time in libraries, even without librarians knowing about them. Now, let's look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Looking at these goals, which ones of them would you say are the ones that libraries can contribute to? Surely you have thought of the Goal 4, Quality Education, possibly because of the story that I told you. Or the Goal 10, Reduce Inequality, since public libraries belong to everyone without distinctions, leaving no one behind. But believe me, libraries contribute to achieving all these goals. An example of libraries' contribution to achieving the Goal 10, Reduce Inequality, is the State Library of Rio de Janeiro. This library is located in downtown of Rio, and every day before the library opened, prior to the coronavirus pandemic, there used to be a queue of people waiting to use the library. Some of them were homeless, and they see the library as a safe place where they can seek shelter from the heat and the rain, but also as a place to educate themselves. One of them was a girl who used to hang out every day in the library. She grew up in the orphanage, but ran away because she was picked on by other children. She also didn't go to the school for the same reason, and today she's living on the street. The first time she visited the library, she was very scared because she thought that she might not fit in. But after, she made friends with employees and she started to feel at home. When asked her why she was in the library every day, she answered, "It's better to me to occupy myself in the library because I want to stay away from the street's problems like drugs and negative influence. Here I can distract myself, using computers, watching movies, playing games, and chatting. I came to the library to learn, and I already learned a lot here. I learned to respect the rules, to be polite with others, to use the toilet. I like to come here because here I made friends. I just don't know to read, but I know that one day I will learn." This story shows how important the library is as a public space, and how it was necessary for her. Unfortunately, the library is currently closed, and we don't know what's happened to her, but at least the library sparked her interest in reading. Another example to achieve the Goal 10 is, I would like you to imagine that you move to a country where you don't speak the language. This is my case, and believe me, it's not easy. But the libraries can also help you. In Hamburg libraries, there is a volunteer project that offers conversation groups for adults who want to improve their German. From my own experience, I attended this conversation group and it was wonderful. First, because when you take a language course, you usually learn a lot of grammar, but you have no chance to speak. And in the library, you can really practice speaking. Second, because it's not only about improve the language, but also about social integration. It's possible to meet people from all over the world, and besides that, you end up making friends, which is fundamental for integration and reduce the isolation of these people. These projects also contribute to achieve the Goal 8, because if you improve your German, you have more chance to get a job. And the Goal 3, well-being, because you will feel more integrated. After having been given these examples, I hope you agree that libraries can change people's lives. But What about this argument that one day physical libraries will not exist because you can find everything online? It's not possible to generalize that everyone has access to it. According to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, 25% of the Brazilian population 10 years or older did not have access to internet in 2018. That is almost 46 million Brazilians, and half of them don't know how to use it. Libraries can help in this case as well. There is a volunteer project at Hamburg Library that offers training course for people who are more than 60 years old. This project enables seniors to use mobiles and tablets to communicate digitally and to obtain information online. This is an amazing project because nowadays when you don't know how to use smart technology, it's really difficult to communicate with your friends and family. From my own experience, before moving to Germany, I tried to teach my father to use a smartphone to chat with me, and it was really tough for him. I had to write a big manual explaining step by step how to turn on the phone, open the chat app, and how to answer and make video calls. At one point, I felt, oh my God! But in the end, it was a fun experience, and today I'm happy that we can see each other by camera. Another important point is fake news. Who has ever shared fake news because you didn't check it out or because you really believe it was true? This is a serious problem because nowadays anyone can create false information and spread it on the internet. Libraries also offer workshops on how to search and check fake news for people who don't know how to look for a reliable source of information. As a consequence, this action contributes to the goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, because fake news often spread hate speech and try to destroy the reputation of institutions. All these examples are focused on social aspects. But what about the goals related to the environment? Libraries should be exemplary. Let me illustrate by bringing some examples. Look at the Goal 12, Sustainable Consumption. Some librarians are concerned about the consumption and waste production of libraries, buying more sustainable products and avoiding waste in the library service. The waste separation is also fundamental, and all the material collected is sent for recycling, including books that are no longer in use. These simple actions contribute not only to the Goal 11, Sustainable Cities, and to the Goal 12, but also to the Goal 14, Conservation of Life in Water, and Goal 15, Conservation of Life on Earth, by saving new natural resources that are no longer used in recycling and mitigating the waste pollution in rivers and on land. Another point is that many libraries provide parking areas for bicycles. This don't only encourage physical activities, but also give an incentive to leave the car at home and reduce the emission of CO2 that accelerates global warming. This way, libraries contribute to both Goal 11, Sustainable Cities, and Goal 13, Climate Action. Public libraries are also a space for environment education programs, which aim to make users aware of sustainability. But this is a topic for another talk. To conclude, when the library contributes to all the 15 Sustainable Development Goals, finally, it will be possible to achieve the Goal 1, No Poverty, and the Goal 2, Zero Hunger, to make our world better. And now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a public library? I hope that I have been able to change your perception of public libraries and show you how they are important to make our world a better place. Thank you for listening.